One thing that we've actually spoken about before is the misogyny laws that they're trying to bring in Scotland, where basically women will not face any restrictions whatsoever, but men are going to have all these laws specifically against them. It's the misogyny laws, where women are allowed to treat and say whatever the hell they want to men, but men are not allowed to do so many things. And it's all these feminist groups that are bringing them forward. See how the ones that are just like, say feminists, it's just people that hate men. You know, people that get cheated on in the past and they hate men and they want to punish them, and this is like their way of doing it. You know, like every D&D campaign, an elf slighted me once. Like that type of crap, that's what this is. Men in Scotland who loudly boast about sexual conquests in public could face jail. Baroness Kennedy of the Shaws was paid by Nicola Sturgeon's government to conduct an investigation into misogyny north of the border, an amazing use of our tax money. Now, one thing that I will say is, if a man wants to boast, yeah, went home last night, two Swedish twins, man, brought them back in my Lamborghini, I got the love pack out the fridge, what a night, like that type of thing, right? I will say, like, yes, you should be free to do that. It's cringe. It's cringe. Nobody. I'll save it for the end. I'll save it for the end, right? Men who loudly discuss their sexual conquests in public could face up to 7 years in jail under plans to criminalise misogyny in Scotland. I don't know what this is about the 7 year thing. Just like Scotland seems very, very dead set on giving 7 year sentences for dumb stuff. Like in the original draft of the hate crime bill, Hamza Yusuf wanted to give you 7 years in jail just for possessing offensive memes. Right, so now if you go like that, took her home last night and absolutely pumped her, that's 7 years in jail, apparently. Apparently that's worth 7 years in jail. Hearing a guy saying that on the Waverley train. Apparently that's worthy of 7 years in jail. I've heard a lot worse on the Waverley train. I've heard even worse on the 262. A consultation published by the SNP government proposes creating 5 new laws designed to outlaw abusive and humiliating male behaviour, which is claimed stops women fully participating in society. It actually does not in any way. Maybe it discourages them from doing it, but they are still fully able to do it. In other words, this is a you problem, but you want legislation put in place. People say I'm still allowed to do the thing, but someone said something that kind of makes me not want to do the thing. That's a you problem. That's a you problem. See if there's laws in place that are banning you from doing the thing, then we can have a chat. But you're still allowed to do the thing. You just feel not as confident about doing it, and unfortunately, you don't have a human right to confidence. Right, sorry, sad but true. Under a new offence of misogynistic behaviour, it would not be necessary for an offender to directly address a woman to be found guilty under the plans. Yes, these were in fact drafted up by feminists, fascist feminists who want to control human behaviour. Instead, they could watch pornography where others could see it, or who's watching porn in public? Who's doing that? Oh, apparently that MP that one time. And an old teacher of mine from Coatbridge High. Oh, Mr. Laurie. Oh, he was so nice as well, but, hey ho, shit happens. Shit happens, and sometimes you forget the projector's still on. True story, Google it. Could see it or have loud, graphic sexual conversations about women in a public place where they can be heard by others. Meanwhile, under a new offence of misogynistic harassment, an offence would be committed if a man shouts sexually abusive remarks at a woman in the street or uses abusive language to a girl who does not want to be chatted up. There are already laws in place for stuff like that. Those laws already exist. Other examples would include deliberately rubbing up against a woman in a crowded place. That's assault. I'm sorry. Any unwanted bodily contact, that's assault right away. There's already laws for that. And in my eyes, that is assault, right? You grabbing a woman's arse on the train, cuffs, jail. Sorry, that is assault. That is. Or showing porn to a female who's just walking up to women and showing them porn. Who's doing that? The problem is that's probably happened. But who the hell is doing that? In addition, a new offence of stirring up hatred. They love that. They love that Scottish government see this vague as hell term that even the Law Society has came out and went, what the hell does that mean? Oh, they love it. They love vague stuff. Stirring up hatred against women and girls could be deployed against incel male supremacist bloggers or Andrew Tate-style online personalities who make inflammatory remarks about the opposite sex. Right, and I'm not going to turn around and say that making such remarks or doing such things is good. However, people have the right to say things. I am very sorry. People have the God-given or natural-given or logic-given right, whatever you want to call it, to be able to say such things. If you don't want to hear such things, then you don't listen to such things. It's dead easy. Get up and move to another part of the bus. Making rape, sexual assault, or disfigurement threats against women would also become a specific offence. That's already an offence. That's already an offence. This is now a double law. I think it's so that they can charge you under both laws, actually, to give you an even longer sentence. Following an explosion in online abuse directed at women. I mean, it's not like they don't bring it on themselves. Joke. The plans were based on a report written by Baroness Kennedy of the Shaws, who was paid £1,000 a day. Thank you, very good. I'm very, very glad that my tax money went to writing laws that we already have, and to write even further laws to infringe on basic human rights. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. You know, it's not enough that you're drone striking brown children. You also need to make me complicit in other human rights violations. Thanks very much, taxman. By Nicola Sturgeon's government to conduct an investigation into misogyny north of the border. The Labour peer published her report last year, arguing that men perpetrated daily abuses which blight the lives of women. I don't do anything like that. I actively avoid women because I don't like women. If a woman tries to talk to me on the train or anything, I ignore her. Who's talking to women? Those sneaky Pete's. You can't trust them. She claimed she had found that women were facing an absolute horror story and warned that what was perceived as low-level harassment could prove to be the subsoil from which more grave crimes emerge. Now, one thing that is definitely important to point out: if someone just says some words against a person, that can very often, 99% of the time, that's all it is. They just said some words. But if, because of that person then gets arrested and then gets sent to jail, that might change things a little bit. Because one thing that I will say, people who get arrested for racism and then get sent to jail, they come out of jail way more racist. So, oh lordy loo, I swear to God, I've talked to some of them and they were a different person. Jesus, they come out so much worse. And the thing is, like, the government with their little studies and all that type of stuff that they're paying loads and loads of tax money for, the government actually knows that it doesn't work and it makes the problem worse. Yet they insist on keeping on doing it, so the only logical conclusion is that the government is actively trying to create radicals. That's the only logical conclusion. Yes, we do this. Yes, we know it causes radicals. This was proven by a survey we did ourselves and paid for, and we're going to keep doing it anyway. So there you go. The government has essentially admitted, yes, we want to create radicals. I think they're hoping that the radicals then go on to do horrendous stuff, and then the government can use that as an excuse to come in and create even more laws that violate human rights. At least that's my little tinfoil hat theory. Baroness Kennedy urged women to take part in the consultation which proposes writing her proposals into Scots law. Baroness Kennedy is in fact a speech fascist, and if she does do these things, then she belongs in front of the Hague. She belongs in front of the Hague if she does this. For too long, the law has not been drawn from the experience of women, she said. All the things you just listed, there are already laws for it. Like 80-90% of the things you just listed, there are already laws. There are already laws. This is just complete, hollow, absolute diatribe pish that cost us £1,000 a day of taxpayer money. It's time to hear from girls and women about what they think. I mean, Jesus Christ, I'm sick of hearing about what women and girls think. It's all this on there. It's all that's in Parliament. It's all this on the news. I mean, Jesus Christ, you've had the spotlight now for about 20 fucking years, right? We get the point. It should be included in law so they can be treated as equals and live free from abuse and denigration. Okay, then, if you want everyone to be treated as equals, make the same law for men. Outlaw misandry. Why is misandry not being outlawed? Oh yeah, that's right, because the feminist groups that you hired to actually write these laws and do your little surveys in the first place. Because the Scottish Government goes, we asked the public about XYZ. No, they didn't. It was a meeting where they specifically invited feminist and left-wing groups so that they would get the feedback that they wanted. The reason that I know this is I had a guy on the inside. Right. There was a friend of mine, who went to the meeting. He was quiet, didn't say what his real opinions were. His real opinions are a lot worse than mine. But He sat there quietly smiling, and whenever they said men, he was like, yes, we are awful. Yes, we're terrible, and all that. And yeah, you specifically invited feminists to the meeting. And you left the actual invite deep hidden on your website, but then you went out of your way to send emails to these groups so you could get the feedback you wanted to go, we asked the public, and they said, no, you didn't ask the public. You asked a specific set of feminist groups that you specifically went out of your way to invite to the meeting. 7-year prison sentences proposed. And again, so if you wanted to be equal, and the reason those groups... when they were drafting up the law, they were like, okay, well then let's have a misandry clause. If you're not allowed to say and do things like that to women, then in order to create the equal society that these people claim they want, we should also have similar laws where women are not allowed to do or say similar things to men. And the feminists kicked off and went, no, we'll pull the whole bill if you do that. Hey-ho, now we have a law that will actually enforce inequality. So these equality groups are supporting a law that is essentially state-sanctioned inequality. They are doing the opposite of their intended purpose, and for that, I think they should have their funding pulled. In fact, pull their funding anyway. Just not even a reason, just pull their funding anyway. The SNP is also seeking views on the appropriate sanctions those found guilty of the new misogyny offences would face. It stated that the proposed maximum punishment for misogynistic harassment or behaviour is 7 years imprisonment. Now, just to let you know, the average person that gets caught with child porn will serve half of that. Just saying. It stated that, I've just read that, criminal offences would be triggered in case where the perpetrator perceives their victim to be a woman, because, nowadays it's quite hard to tell, irrespective as to the victim's sex or gender. Women making unwanted sexually motivated advances towards men or discussing their sexual conquests in public would not face sanctions under the legislation because, again, it is a law that enforces inequality. Right? Men would then become a subclass. They are not protected. They don't have the exact same protection of law as anybody else. Now, the whole point of law is we are all equal under the law. It was Chuck McGill who says that no matter who you are, you have to obey the law. The law is equal. We're all equal under the law, blah, blah, blah. But then along comes women with their chicanery, right? And starts pulling stuff like this. So this is women now, this is feminist groups wanting inequality. They don't want equality, they want inequality. They want to be a privileged class where they can go up and say things. Have you as someone who's a bouncer, have you ever been in a situation where a woman's hitting you and you stand there and take it because you know you can't do anything? Yeah, I've been in that situation a few times. I've just sat there, took it on the chin. I mean, female punches don't hurt. Rings do. Rings fucking hurt. But you have to just sit there, keep your mouth shut and not say anything because as soon as you lift a hand, off you go. They want that now, but when it comes to speech, they're allowed to come up and say whatever horrendous stuff they want to you and you just have to sit there and bite your lip. There was another group of people that had to live under similar laws, something that rhymes with row. Women making I've just read that. The report stated that the justice system had been designed by men for men and needed to adapt to meet the needs of over half of our society. I mean, Jesus Christ, I had no idea that it was just totally legal to walk up and do whatever the hell you wanted to women. God damn, boys, we missed our window. A statutory aggravation of misogyny would be created. It is proposed. This would mean that where an offence had misogynistic motives or features, it could be punished more harshly, in the same way that offences linked to racism can be. Keith Brown, the SNP's Justice Secretary, said, women and girls are routinely humiliated, touched, groped, undermined, trolled and objectified, both online and off, and subjected to threats, harassment and abuse about their looks or desirability, stopping them from fully participating in society. None of those things happen to men, of course. Not one of them. Not humiliated, touched, groped. This fucking happened to me. I was at an event once, and if anyone's ever wondering why whenever I attend like one of the events that me and Sargon do or anything like that, why I always go into the stall instead of just pissing at the urinal, it's because there was a guy trying to look at me. There was a guy trying to actually look at my dick. I guess he wanted to see if the rumours were true. Made me mad uncomfortable. I did not like it. So now whenever I'm at an event like that, I piss in the stall. Undermined. Oh, men have never experienced that. Trolled. Jesus, men have never experienced that either. And objectified, both online and off. I mean, goddamn, we've never experienced that. You know, there wasn't like there was a fucking decade-long Diet Coke advert doing exactly just that, and that was part of advertising. That was mainstream. And subjected to threats, harassment, and abuse about their looks or desirability. I think there was a word, was it incel? Yeah, that's it. It's not like feminists are online all the time, like just saying that word. I mean, they even say it to me, a married man with 2 children. And all that stuff as well. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Keith Brown, obviously one of the, just a type of, you know, IQ titan that we can expect to be in the SNP. You're absolutely right. Men never experience any of those things, which is why we should have laws just to protect women from those things, and men can just go fuck themselves, can't they? Yeah, fucking inequality, man. The SNP are a fucking joke. Although there are already a range of laws, yeah, there are, that can be used to prosecute aspects of misogynistic harassment and abuse, they do not accurately identify the particular harm caused by misogyny. Well, what harm do they identify? What harm? I mean, it's the same type of harm. If it's the same type of crime done for the same type of reasons, then the type of harm can be identified by it. Like assault, verbal abuse, that type of stuff. It's already outlined in the law. These laws exist. This is all hollow political theatre that's costing hundreds of thousands of tax dollars, tax pounds even. This is all fake political theatre. Totally fake, hollow crap. They also fail to adequately respond to problems faced by women, which is why we are consulting on further criminal reforms. Respond to problems faced by women, so the arresting the guy and charging him and putting him in jail is not enough. Because that's what happens. Like, if I go outside right now and just like cop a titty of a random woman walking past, I won't just get arrested and sent to jail. I'll be brought up on sex charges and I'll be placed on the sex offenders register. Literally just for going, honker. That's it. That would immediately make me a sex offender. Like, what more? What more do you want? And rightly so. I would put that down, rightly so. Rightly so that law exists. And while criminal law reform alone cannot be expected to eliminate misogynistic abuse or the attitudes which perpetuate it, these specific criminal... So the thing this law is designed to get rid of, we know it's not going to get rid of them, but we're going to do it anyway, government, or the attitudes which perpetuate it, these specific criminal protections are an important step in challenging societies, and particularly men's, tolerance of misogyny. So yeah, see, all this has been drafted up by feminists that were specifically selected for a special secret, semi-not-so-secret meeting by the SNP. And it's costing us hundreds of thousands of tax pounds so that they can pass a law that would literally enforce inequality. It would enforce inequality within Scotland. So, see, when it comes to favouring a certain group over others, where one group has more state protections, and if you commit a crime, you know, if you commit a crime against one person, you get a certain sentence, but if you commit the exact same crime for the exact same reasons against another specific type of person and you get a harsher sentence, well, there's a word for that. I would say I'll let you figure it out, but we all know that the SNP and feminists aren't that smart.